The salvage ship, Starcatcher, drifted silently through the asteroid field, its worn hull reflecting the distant starlight. In the cockpit, Raven Blackwood guided her vessel with practiced ease, her dark eyes scanning the debris field for anything valuable. After 15 years of salvage work, she thought she'd seen everything the void had to offer. She was wrong. Unusual energy signature detected, announced the ship's computer, its monotone voice breaking the silence. Unknown origin. Classification impossible. Raven leaned forward, adjusting her navigation controls. Show me, computer. A holographic display materialized, showing a massive structure embedded in one of the larger asteroids. It wasn't the typical wreckage she salvaged, this was different. The structure appeared to be carved from some sort of crystalline material, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. Well, that's definitely not Federation architecture, Raven muttered, maneuvering closer. The structure's design defied conventional engineering principles, seeming to flow organically from the asteroid itself. Run a full scan. Let's see what we're dealing with. As the Starcatcher's sensors probed the structure, Raven noticed something odd. The energy readings were fluctuating, almost as if responding to their presence. She'd encountered plenty of ancient ruins in her work, but nothing that still held active power after presumably centuries of abandonment. Warning, the computer chimed. Energy signature intensifying. Recommend maintaining safe distance. Raven ignored the warning, her curiosity overriding her usual caution. She'd built her reputation on taking calculated risks, and something about this discovery called to her. The Starcatcher edged closer, its floodlights illuminating the crystalline surface. Initiating docking procedure, she announced, more to herself than the computer. The ship's magnetic clamps engaged, securing it to the asteroid's surface near what appeared to be an entrance. Donning her environmental suit, Raven performed the usual safety checks. The suit's worn fabric bore the patches and repairs of countless previous expeditions, but it had never failed her. She grabbed her toolkit and headed for the airlock. Computer, maintain position and keep communications open. If anything looks wrong, you pull me out immediately. The airlock cycled, and Raven stepped out into the void. Her magnetic boots anchored her to the asteroid's surface as she approached the structure. Up close, the crystalline material was even more remarkable. It seemed to respond to her presence, the patterns beneath its surface shifting subtly as she passed. Using her tools, Raven began examining what appeared to be a sealed doorway. The surface was covered in symbols unlike any language she'd encountered in her years of salvage work. As she traced one of the symbols with her scanner, it suddenly illuminated. "Computer, are you recording this?" she asked, her breath quickening. Affirmative. Warning, energy levels continuing to rise. The entire doorway began to glow, symbols lighting up in a complex sequence. Raven stepped back, but her suit's sensors detected no radiation or other immediate threats. The door's surface rippled like liquid metal, and then, with a sound that seemed to bypass her ears and resonate directly in her bones, it opened. Beyond lay a chamber that defied explanation. The walls were lined with the same crystalline material, but here it was alive with light and motion. At the center stood a pillar of pure energy, stretching from floor to ceiling. And suspended within it was something that made Raven's heart skip a beat. A creature, massive and serpentine, its body covered in what appeared to be living crystal. It was curled in on itself, as if sleeping, but even in stasis, it radiated power. Not a simple animal, Raven realized, but something intelligent. Something ancient. "Computer," she whispered, "what am I looking at?" Unable to classify. Structure appears to be a stasis chamber of unknown design. Life signs detected but inconsistent with known parameters. Raven approached the pillar, drawn by an inexplicable compulsion. The creature within stirred slightly, as if sensing her presence. Its surface rippled with colors that shouldn't exist in nature, creating patterns that seemed to tell stories she couldn't quite comprehend. As she reached out toward the energy field, her suit's sensors began screaming warnings. The computer's voice crackled through her comm: emergency. Energy surge detected. Recommend immediate evacuation. But it was too late. The moment her hand touched the field, everything changed. The chamber erupted with light, and Raven felt a presence touch her mind, ancient, powerful, and very much aware. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was the creature's eyes opening, revealing depths that contained entire galaxies. When she awoke, she was back in her ship, sprawled on the cockpit floor. But she wasn't alone. The presence in her mind remained, and with it came the understanding that her life would never be the same. She had found something that would change not just her fate, but the fate of the entire galaxy. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard a voice that wasn't her own: at last, a worthy one has come. Raven's head throbbed as she pulled herself up from the cockpit floor. The ship's emergency lights pulsed red, casting eerie shadows across the instruments. But it wasn't the lights that concerned her, it was the massive crystalline form now somehow coiled within her cargo hold, visible through the internal cameras. Computer, damage report, she managed, steadying herself against the console. Hull integrity at 87%. Power systems stable. Warning, unknown entity detected in cargo bay. Security protocols active. The creature had somehow transported itself into her ship. More incredibly, it had done so without breaching the hull. Through the cameras, Raven watched as it unfurled itself, its crystalline body flowing like liquid starlight. It was even more magnificent than it had been in stasis, each movement created cascades of color that seemed to bend the very light around it. You need not fear, Raven Blackwood. The voice resonated directly in her mind, carrying with it impressions of ancient stars and forgotten worlds. I am Orlith, guardian of the celestial gates. Raven swallowed hard, her hand hovering over the cargo bay emergency release. That's good to know. Mind explaining why you're in my cargo hold? A sound like crystalline wind chimes echoed through her mind, laughter, she realized. Your touch awakened me from my long vigil. In doing so, you have become bound to a destiny greater than you imagine. Right, Raven muttered. Because that doesn't sound ominous at all. She took a deep breath, weighing her options. The creature, Orlith, could have killed her already if it wanted to. Instead, it was talking to her. What exactly is a guardian of the celestial gates? Images flooded her mind, vast networks of ancient portals spanning galaxies, civilizations rising and falling like waves on a cosmic shore, and beings of pure energy shepherding the flow of life through the universe. We were created to maintain balance, Orlith explained. To ensure that no single power could dominate the cosmic web. Before Raven could respond, the ship's proximity alerts blared. 3 vessels had just dropped out of hyperspace nearby, sleek, predatory shapes that she recognized with a sinking feeling in her stomach. Galactic Authority vessels detected, the computer announced. Receiving transmission. Salvage vessel Starcatcher, a cold voice crackled through the comm. This is Captain Theron of the GA Enforcement Division. You have accessed a restricted zone and interfered with a contained asset. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding. Raven's mind raced. The Galactic Authority didn't patrol this far out unless they were hunting something specific. Something like an ancient guardian they tried to keep imprisoned in that asteroid. They cannot be allowed to recapture me, Orlith's voice resonated in her mind. The balance must be maintained. They're going to blow my ship apart if we try to run, Raven argued, watching as the GA vessels moved to surround them. Then we shall have to ensure they cannot follow. The cargo hold filled with a brilliant light as Orlith's form began to shift and change. You freed me, Raven Blackwood. Now I shall free us both. The GA ships opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up the void. But something impossible was happening to the Starcatcher. Crystalline patterns spread across its hull, transforming the battered salvage vessel before Raven's eyes. Power readings surged off the charts as Orlitha's energy merged with the ship's systems. "What are you doing?" Raven gasped, watching as her familiar controls transformed into something both ancient and advanced. "Teaching you to fly among the stars as the ancients once did." Orlitha's consciousness merged more fully with hers, and suddenly Raven understood. The ship wasn't just being modified, it was being reborn. "Final warning, Starcatcher," Captain Theron's voice crackled. "Power down or be destroyed." Raven felt power thrumming through the transformed ship, through her very being. Through her connection with Orlith, she sensed pathways through space that shouldn't exist, the celestial gates that the Guardian had once protected. "Sorry, Captain," she replied, feeling a grin spread across her face. "But I'm about to miss my exit." With a thought, she engaged the ship's new systems. Reality itself seemed to crack open before them, revealing a corridor of pure light. The GA ship's weapons fire passed harmlessly through space where the Starcatcher had been moments before, as Raven and her newfound companion slipped between the very fabric of spacetime itself. They emerged in a star system Raven had never seen, the transformed Starcatcher humming with power around them. Through their shared consciousness, she felt Orlitha's satisfaction and concern. "You handled that well," the Guardian communicated. "But they will not stop hunting us. The Galactic Authority has sought the power of the gates for centuries. Now that one of us is free, they will not rest until they have reclaimed what they believe is theirs." Raven leaned back in her chair, processing the impossible events of the past few hours. She'd gone from simple salvage work to being bonded with an ancient cosmic being and hunted by the most powerful organization in known space. "So what's the plan?" she asked, both out loud and with her thoughts. "We find the others," Orlith replied. "More of my kind remain imprisoned. And you, Raven Blackwood, have proven yourself worthy to help free them." The transformed Starcatcher drifted in the strange star system, its crystalline hull reflecting light in ways that defied physics. Raven felt the weight of destiny settling onto her shoulders, but for the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone. "Well," she said, bringing up the ship's new navigation systems, "I always wanted to see more of the galaxy." Deep in unexplored space, the crystalline-enhanced Starcatcher emerged from another celestial gate, its hull shimmering with otherworldly energies. Raven checked the sensors, her movements now fluid and instinctive after weeks of working in harmony with Orlitha's consciousness. 3 more gates mapped, she announced, both aloud and through their mental link. Still no sign of the other Guardians. They have hidden them well, Orlitha's thoughts resonated through her mind. The Authority learned from my imprisonment. Each Guardian was sealed in a different way, their locations scattered across the cosmos. A warning flashed across the transformed console, interrupting their conversation. Raven's hands flew across the crystalline controls, bringing up a tactical display. Speaking of the Authority. 5 GA warships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already charging. They had gotten better at tracking the Starcatcher's unique energy signature, making each jump between gates more dangerous than the last. "Salvage vessel Starcatcher," a familiar voice crackled through the comm, "this is Captain Theron. Your continued evasion only proves your guilt. Surrender the Guardian entity, and you may yet avoid execution." Raven snorted, already plotting their escape route. "You know, I'm starting to think he doesn't like us." Through their bond, she felt Orlitha's amusement, but also a deeper concern. The Guardian's thoughts shifted, showing her images of vast networks of power being drained, twisted, and corrupted. "They do not seek merely to capture us. They wish to harness the power of the gates for themselves. And I'm guessing that would be bad." Raven guided the ship through a series of evasive maneuvers as energy beams lanced through space around them. The gates were created to maintain balance in the universe. To use them as weapons. Orlitha's mental voice trailed off as more images filled Raven's mind, worlds torn apart, reality itself fracturing under the strain. A blast rocked the ship, momentarily disrupting their shield harmonics. Raven cursed, diving the Starcatcher behind a massive asteroid. They're getting better at targeting our weak spots. Perhaps, Orlith communicated, it is time we stopped running. Raven felt the Guardian's power surge through the ship's systems, crystalline patterns spreading and shifting across the hull. What are you thinking? The Authority believes they understand what I am, what we have become together. Let us show them how wrong they are. A smile spread across Raven's face as she understood the plan forming in their shared consciousness. You know, for an ancient cosmic entity, you've got a flair for the dramatic. The Starcatcher burst from behind the asteroid, but not as the same ship that had hidden there. The crystalline enhancement that had been gradually spreading throughout their journey suddenly accelerated, transforming the vessel completely. Wings of pure energy unfurled from its sides, and its hull became a shifting maze of impossible geometries. By the void, Captain Theron's voice wavered slightly. What have you done to that ship? Would you like to demonstrate? Orlith asked in Raven's mind. Thought you'd never ask. Raven reached out with both her hands in her consciousness, embracing the full potential of their bond. The transformed Starcatcher responded instantly, reality bending around it as it moved in ways that should have been impossible. The GA ships opened fire, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the space where the Starcatcher appeared to be, hitting nothing but light and shadow. Raven felt the exhilaration of true flight for the first time, understanding now what Orlith had meant about flying as the ancients did. They danced through the enemy formation, the ship moving less like a vessel and more like a living thing. Each motion left trails of crystalline energy that confused both sensors and eyes. The GA ships tried to coordinate their attacks, but they were fighting an enemy that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Impossible, Theron's voice crackled. All ships, concentrate fire on their last known coordinates. Now, Orlith prompted, and Raven felt the surge of power building within their transformed vessel. The crystalline patterns across the hull began to pulse with blinding light. Better luck next time, Captain, Raven transmitted, then activated their new capabilities. The space around the Starcatcher rippled like a stone thrown into a cosmic pond. Waves of crystalline energy pulsed outward, washing over the GA ships. When the light faded, the warships hung motionless in space, their systems completely dormant. They weren't destroyed, just temporarily suspended in a fragment of time, their crews unaware that anything had happened. That, Raven breathed, was incredible. Why didn't we do this sooner? Such power comes with a cost, Orlith responded, and Raven felt the Guardian's energy fluctuating. We must find the others soon. I cannot maintain this form indefinitely without their help. A new alert caught Raven's attention, a faint signal pulsing from a distant star system. Through their connection, she felt Orlith's recognition. Another Guardian? She asked, already plotting the course. Yes. But we must hurry. The Authority will not remain helpless for long, and what we have shown them today will only make them more determined to capture us. The transformed Starcatcher turned toward the distant signal, its crystalline hull still shifting and flowing like liquid starlight. As they prepared to jump, Raven felt the weight of their mission more keenly than ever. They weren't just running anymore, they were racing against time itself. Then let's not keep them waiting, she said, engaging the gate drive. The ship disappeared in a flash of impossible light, leaving behind the suspended GA vessels like statues in a cosmic museum. The hunt for the Guardians had truly begun. The binary stars of the Helios system cast an eerie purple glow across the Starcatcher's crystalline hull as Raven guided them through a field of twisted metal debris. The wreckage of ancient ships created a graveyard that stretched for thousands of kilometers, each broken vessel telling a silent story of a battle lost to time. I remember this place, Orlith's thoughts carried a weight of sadness that made Raven's heart ache. This was where the final battle was fought. Where we were betrayed. Raven navigated carefully through the debris, the ship's enhanced sensors mapping safe passages. I thought the Authority imprisoned you. You're saying someone else was involved? Images flashed through their shared consciousness, beings of pure energy fighting alongside the crystalline guardians, defending the gates against something dark and hungry that clawed at the edges of reality. But then came the betrayal, their allies turning against them, using knowledge gained through centuries of trust to imprison the guardians one by one. The authority did not imprison us, Orlith revealed. They inherited us. The ones who betrayed us became what your people now call the founders of the Galactic Authority. A massive shape loomed ahead, the wreckage of what must have been a command ship, its hull carved with symbols similar to those Raven had seen in Orlith's temple. The Guardian's signal was coming from deep within its broken shell. Why? Raven asked, maneuvering the Starcatcher toward a breach in the ancient vessel's hull. Why turn against their own allies? Fear. Orlith's mental voice was heavy with memory. Fear of what lay beyond the gates. Fear of what we protected them from. They chose to seal the gates, to deny the very purpose of our existence. The Starcatcher's lights illuminated corridors that hadn't seen light in millennia. Crystalline growth had spread throughout the ship's interior, preserving it in a frozen moment of destruction. Through their bond, Raven felt Orlith's recognition of the place, and with it, a growing sense of urgency. We're not alone here, she realized, checking the enhanced sensors. Multiple ships entering the system. Not just authority vessels. No, Orlith confirmed. The signal has drawn others. Those who remember the old wars. Those who seek what we guard. The sensor display lit up with new contacts, ships of various designs, some familiar, others completely alien. All converging on their position. Through their bond, Raven felt Orlith's recognition of some of the vessels, and with it came a chilling revelation. The ancient enemy, the Guardian communicated. They still exist, hidden among the stars. Waiting. Watching. The authorities' blindness has allowed them to gather strength once again. A massive chamber opened up before them, and in its center hung a familiar sight, another stasis field, another imprisoned guardian. But this one was different. The crystalline being within was darker, its patterns chaotic and disturbed. Something's wrong, Raven said, feeling Orlith's growing concern. The stasis field, it's corrupted. The darkness touched this one before the imprisonment, Orlith explained. We must free them, but carefully. If the corruption has spread. The ship shuddered as the first weapon's fire reached them. Through the broken hull, Raven could see the space around the ancient wreck lighting up with energy beams and torpedo trails. The gathered ships were attacking each other, each faction fighting to reach the Guardian first. Time's up, Raven announced, bringing the Starcatcher's defenses online. How do we do this? We must join our consciousness fully, Orlith communicated. What we have shared until now has been but a fraction of our potential. To free my sibling and cleanse the corruption will require everything we have. Raven felt the weight of the moment, understanding that there would be no going back from this point. Will I still be me? A wave of warmth and reassurance flowed through their bond. You will be more than you are, but never less than who you were. This is why you were chosen, Raven Blackwood. Your spirit is strong enough to contain multitudes. Another blast rocked the chamber as a torpedo breached the ancient hull. Warning lights flashed across the Starcatcher's controls as hostile ships began to enter the wreck. Well, Raven said, taking a deep breath, when you put it that way. She opened herself fully to the bond, feeling Orlith's consciousness merge completely with her own. The sensation was like diving into a sea of stars, each point of light a memory spanning millennia. The Starcatcher transformed around them, its crystalline structure extending throughout the chamber. As their combined consciousness expanded, Raven understood at last the true nature of the Guardians, not just protectors, but keys to something far greater. The gates were not merely paths between stars, but barriers holding back a darkness that hungered for all existence. The authorities' founders had sealed away the Guardians not just out of fear, but as part of a deeper betrayal. They had made a deal with that very darkness, believing they could control it. They had been catastrophically wrong. As Raven and Orlith reached out to free the corrupted Guardian, the truth echoed through their unified mind: the real war was about to begin, and the fate of all existence hung in the balance. The chamber erupted with light as their power touched the stasis field, and the battle for the future of the universe entered its final phase. The merged consciousness of Raven and Orlith stretched across space and time, their combined power transforming the ancient wreck into a nexus of crystalline energy. The corrupted Guardian hung suspended before them, its darkness pulsing against the light of their unified being. Through their enhanced awareness, they sensed the approaching ships, authority vessels, ancient enemies, and opportunistic scavengers all converging on their position. But more importantly, they felt the fabric of reality itself straining around them, weakened by millennia of the authorities' misguided actions. The gates are failing, their unified thoughts recognized. The barriers thin. What lurks beyond seeks entrance. The corrupted Guardian stasis field crackled with dark energy as they began the delicate process of cleansing and awakening it. Through their connection, they sensed its pain, its memories of resistance against the creeping darkness before its imprisonment. Captain Theron's voice cut through their concentration: by order of the Galactic Authority, cease all activities immediately. Our sensors detect dangerous reality distortions in your area. The Authority's ignorance will doom us all, they responded, their unified voice carrying across all frequencies. The gates must be restored. The Guardians must be freed. The chamber shuddered as the first wave of ships opened fire. Energy beams and torpedoes converged on their position, only to be absorbed by the crystalline structures that now filled the space. Each attack only added to their power, feeding the cleansing process. But among the attackers, darker ships moved with terrible purpose, vessels that seemed to drink in light itself. The ancient enemy, drawn to the power they wielded, seeking to corrupt it as they had so many eons ago. You cannot stop what comes, a voice whispered through the void, its very sound causing reality to shiver. The gates will fall. All will be consumed. The corrupted Guardian stirred in its stasis field, responding to the voice. Darkness spread through its crystalline form like ink through water. They had to act now, before it was too late. Raven's human consciousness merged even deeper with Orlith's ancient power, their combined will focusing on the imprisoned Guardian. Together, they reached into its very essence, finding the pure light that still existed beneath the corruption. The chamber filled with impossible colors as they began to burn away the darkness. The Guardian's crystalline form started to pulse with renewed energy, its patterns slowly shifting from chaos back to harmony. But the process was drawing more power than even their merged form could safely channel. The ship cannot contain this much energy, Raven's thoughts warned through their union. We need to make a choice. Through their expanded awareness, they saw the options before them with perfect clarity. They could retreat, preserve themselves, and continue their mission to find the other Guardians. Or they could push forward, risking everything to cleanse their corrupted sibling and establish a new foothold in the war against the darkness. The enemy ships pressed closer, their dark energy beginning to corrupt the crystalline growths around the chamber. The Authority vessels held back, their sensors overwhelmed by the power being unleashed. In the midst of it all, the corrupted Guardian's consciousness began to stir, reaching out to them with desperate need. They made their choice. The Starcatcher's crystalline form began to shift, its structure flowing outward to encompass the entire chamber. Raven and Orlith poured everything they had into the cleansing, their unified being burning like a newborn star. What are you doing? Theron demanded, his sensors detecting the massive energy buildup. What the Guardians were created to do, they responded. We are restoring balance. With a surge of power that lit up the entire system, they burned away the last of the corruption. The imprisoned Guardian's true form emerged, its crystalline body shining with pure light. But they didn't stop there. Drawing upon knowledge that stretched back to the creation of the gates themselves, they began to transform the ancient wreck into something new, a nexus point, a gathering place for those who would stand against the darkness. The enemy ships recoiled as waves of purifying energy washed through space. The Authority vessel's crews watched in awe as reality itself seemed to heal around them, the barriers between dimensions strengthening rather than weakening. As the light faded, three crystalline beings hung in space where the wreck had been, Raven and Orlitha's merged form, still tied to the transformed Starcatcher, the newly cleansed Guardian, and something new. A gate nexus, a beacon for others who would join their cause. The time for hiding is past, they broadcast to all who could hear. The Guardians will rise again. The gates will be restored. And this time, we will not stand alone. The Authority ships hung motionless, their crews confronting the truth of their organization's founding betrayal. The enemy vessels fled, their darkness powerless against the united light of the Guardians. And in the merged consciousness of human and Guardian, a new understanding bloomed. They were no longer simply Raven or Orlith, but something more, a bridge between species, between past and future, between order and chaos. The stars seemed to shine brighter as they set course for their next destination. There were more Guardians to free, more allies to gather, and a darkness to face. But now they had hope, and more importantly, they had each other. The hunt for their imprisoned siblings would continue, but no longer in secret. The time had come for the Guardians to reclaim their destiny among the stars. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, ancient powers stirred, sensing that the true war for existence was about to begin.